You are live.
Okay, yeah.
It's the big thought circle. We back in effect. We showing consistency. We bringing new faces, new energy, and
Yeah.
today we're gonna talk about mistakes that we learned in our lives that and lessons that the lessons that we learned from those mistakes. And each of us are going to share an important mistake that we made in our lives and the lesson that we learned from it, and hopes that you can pass this information on to the youth so that they don't make the same mistakes. And
Absolutely.
for all the adults that's present, we hope that if you got kids, this is going to be kid appropriate and very much so directed to young people as well. So if you got kids of a certain age, they should be available and be listening, be tapping in,
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately, what we're trying to do is change the course of history and save this generation from making the same mistakes that we made.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
for me, one of the things I wanted to share is um because I had seen something recently that really disturbed me. I seen these young kids from my neighborhood. They looked like they was around 15, 16 years old. And I mean, they was just on there talking reckless, talking about guys that they had jumped on, and they had one of the victims on, live on Instagram, talking about how they ran, talking about how they chased him home, how they beat him up. One of the kids had a black eye. They mentioned guns and beams and so forth and so on. And the whole time I was just wondering, um, did they realize that they were on, live, incriminating themselves?
Mm.
And at the same time, did they I was asking myself, like, like, do y'all really understand the consequences of your behavior? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
um, I was concerned about their supervision. I was concerned about who was teaching them. Was anybody watching them? Was anybody reprimanding them? Um, and you know, it's always been clear to me that that situation can only go bad. It can only go bad. It can only get worse. So, somebody got to step in. I ain't know the kid. I tried to get in on a live. It was just a bunch of kids on live, 14, 15, 16 years old, going down a very, very dangerous path. And I just wish that we paid more attention to these kids and the stuff that they posting, the people that they hanging with, and also like offering them some type of outlet, mentors in particular. The type of work that Jackie do, the type of work that Keenan do. Like, these kids really need mentors. They really, for the fathers that ain't around, for all the fathers that been, lost to the system, whether it be drugs, the streets, or prison. These kids need somebody to guide them in the right direction on a daily basis. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
one of the things that happened to me that I wanted to share is when I was in
Mm-hmm.
prison, um me and a friend of mine had made a deal with this guy, and the dude didn't honor the deal. So some months down the line, even though what we lost out on was really of no value, of no real significance. Um, some months down the line, I seen the guy and retaliated against him. I was like 15, probably like 15 years old. Um, and it so happened that the sheriffs were present when the incident happened because it happened in the courthouse. So not the courtroom, but the courthouse in the bullpen. So I ended up getting charged. I got 3 to 6 months. I pled guilty, 3 to 6 months time, time ran concurrent. But say like 10 years later, when I got sentenced in the feds, they used that same incident to increase my sentence by 17 years.
Wow. Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So gives me chills.
This made me reevaluate, like, first of all, it wasn't worth it. Second of all, it wasn't about anything important. Third of all, like, what was my belief system? What was my belief system? What was I representing? What was I trying to convey? What was I trying to prove? What was I trying to accomplish? You dig what I'm saying? And we get caught up in this, this so-called code, this so-called street code that, if this person violates us, then we get them back at all costs. You dig what I'm saying? When at the end of the day, it's never worth it. Like, I mean, I was in prison 23 years. I was in over 30 different prisons. I met all different types of people, white, black, Puerto Rican, all types of people. I very, 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 very rarely met people who said, I did what I did and I meant what I did. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, almost everybody in prison regret what they did.
Yeah.
And at that time, in a moment, out of desperation or, out of a false sense of loyalty, out of trying to make a point, whatever they, the perceived, goal was at that point in time, held no significance when you got 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years to think about it or reflect on it and grow. You know what I'm saying? Grow from it. So a lot of these kids is out here thinking that they representing something, whether it's like, some street culture, whether it's gangs, whether it's this, whether it's that. But it's only when you get behind them bars and you got nothing, that you see who really care about you, that you see who really down for you, and that you start evaluating what really matters to you. And all the stuff that they, like Keenan, like you said before, they willing to die for their homies. You know what I'm saying? But don't want to ride for their kids. You know what I'm saying? It's that same concept right there. Because it's gonna be when you go to prison, and you are going to prison, or you going to die. That's the only way out of the game. You either going to prison or you going to die in the streets. There's no in between. So when you go to prison, it's going to be your kids writing you and your homies abandoning you. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take the floor too much, but I'm just setting the tone.
Listen, you make a good point. You make a good point though, right? Because like you said, learning from those mistakes, man. That is, listen, I'm gonna tell you, back when I was a young buck, when I was 15, before I caught my case, my people used to always tell me, watch the people you hang with. Don't hang around these people. Don't hang around these type of people. But I mean, there's a lot of things that was going on, in my life. I lost my mother, then I started smoking the weed, started getting into dealing with the drugs and stuff like that. And of course that led to the streets. But little did I know is the consequences behind our actions. You know what I'm saying? When we decided, right, when a group of us, it was 5 of us, when the group of us wanted to rob an innocent man. What's up, Down? I see you, Down Bell. We doing well. But you know the story too. An innocent man, we wanted to rob somebody. Here it is, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. I think it was 117. We just wanted to get together. We just wanted to rob somebody. And us not thinking, okay, even though one of the people that was with, he had the gun. We knew that we would get away with the robbery. But we never knew that man would get shot in the head. You know what I'm saying? We never knew that would turn into a homicide. You know what I mean? So here it is. Oh, we thinking, yeah, everybody's cool. Yeah, this, that, and the third. We ride, this, that, and the third. And this happens. And I was like, whoa, hold up. You know what I'm saying? What just happened here? So it was a huge mistake. It was a huge mistake by us, you know, just getting together to create a criminal act. So here it is. You charged with first-degree murder, and then you have criminal conspiracy. Because remember, conspiracy, you know, you could just be in an act. You could just be there. You could just be there, and they could charge you with criminal conspiracy. You see what I'm saying? So for a lot of youth out there, you got to remember, you got to think in your mind. Think in your mind, you know, before you get around them cats that you swear that, you know, that's tough guys and yeah, they riding for you, this and the third. Because with the blink of an eye, you could just be there. Now, I was highly involved in it. I'm not disputing that, and I regret every bit of it. But I was highly involved in it. But for the ones who just hanging around just to hang around as if, okay, yeah, it's cool to do. No. Because you stand on that street corner and shots start ringing out, let's believe you got a newsy neighbor that's going to say you did something. Yeah, I seen them running from the scene, and next thing you know, you're tied and caught up all in that. So again, remember, when you hang around these people, I'll tell you, that cost me a lot, almost 15 years of my life in prison. You know what I'm saying? And even prior to that, they talked about giving us the death penalty and life sentences and et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? And then remember, like I said, learn from them lessons. We got to learn. I had to learn from that. When I got caught up in all that stuff, I stopped dealing with a lot of people. Because the same friends that I called my homies, they were the ones starting to point the fingers at me. So now it became what's going on? Oh, that wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? So remember, know who your homies are. Know who your friends are. You got to know who to trust and who not. And not saying that you who to trust in negative actions. No, I'm not telling you to do no negative actions. But you got to remember the people you hanging around, you know, they're going to have influence around you. If you hanging around broke people, you're going to be broke. If you hanging around people that's getting money, you're going to get money. So my thing is, the reality is, the company you keep, bad company corrupts good morals. So I'm trying to let you know, remind yourself, whoever you hang around, listen, they tell you to do wrong, you better get away from them. Because I'm telling you, it will cost you time in prison. And best believe, majority of the people, I said it before, majority of the people looking at this broadcast right now are ignorant towards the law. So here it is. When you go to prison, your life will be at the mercies of a stranger. It will be at the mercies of a public defender. It will be at the mercies of a private counsel if your family could afford one. Yes, the jail is going to offer you the law library, but where are you going to start? Excuse me. Where are you going to start? You don't know the law. So again, watch the people you hang around, because I'm telling you, that one false move, it will cost you a lot. So I had to learn from that. That's why I watch who's in my circle now. I don't deal with a lot of people. I can probably kill on half a hand of people that I can run to, or I can not run to, but turn to in the time of need, in the time of trouble. And it's probably less than a half a hand. You know what I'm saying? Like Brother Andre was just saying, a lot of people get on here on this Facebook, they tell them on themselves from a like on the post. You know what I'm saying? You telling yourself by the picture you post. This thing is man, technology is so crazy now. When you're taking pictures, they're taking a photographic picture of you, knowing the frame of your mind, knowing the frame of your face, that if you take a picture somewhere else and somebody takes a picture of you by accident, they'll send you a notification saying, yo, somebody took a picture of you. Like, how you know that was me over there? Because nothing's private no more. And then y'all airing it on these telephones like it's cool. Like, no, that's not cool. I'm letting you know, y'all gonna get caught. You're telling yourself, this your case, this your discovery packet right here. I bet you don't know what discovery packet is. But again, I'm not going to take up the whole floor. But remember, the people you hang around will cost you a lot of time. So reconsider that. Now, I'm just telling you from the man perspective of when I was a child. I was only 15 when that happened. And you see what it costed me. So I'm allowing the ladies to elaborate because I'm quite sure they've been through some things too in life that, you know, a lot of the young ladies out there, y'all can really take heed to these things because it's real serious. You know, learning from your actions. And like I said, once the circle come back around, I'll let you know how I started, you know, developing and learning from those different types of things. All right. So I guess, you know, Jackie, Corinne, Maria, you know, we all here to have a good evening, you know, good discussion with everyone. You know, it's an amazing night. So go ahead. You can start off, Jackie. So what type of lessons did you learn from, you know, in your childhood? You know, what type of things, you know, you've been through?
I can relate to both of like making decisions based on like the ego, like Andre was talking about, or even just being naive. But I feel like I honestly, if I regret anything, I feel like it would be like my mindset more than the things that were happening, like the thinking errors, because I honestly knew what I was doing. I could hold myself accountable and say I knew it was illegal. I knew how to hide my lifestyle. My own mom, she didn't even know I was selling drugs until I got indicted. So I was fully aware of what I was doing. The problem was I didn't see anything wrong with that, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I know there was something wrong with it because I'm hiding it, but I just felt like I'm not hurting anybody. I felt like I can just, you know, do the things that I want to do and just skirt around the law. And I also felt like I had to learn lessons for myself. And that's the biggest lesson that I learned is that it's much more, it's wiser to learn from other people's mistakes and listen to people. Because people would tell me things and I would listen and I could relate to their story, but I still need to learn a lesson for myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I learned anything, and then that's anything that I regret is that I wasn't like that. I wouldn't learn from somebody else's mistake. Now my mind's like it's just feeding the data. If I hear about an experience, I'm going to take that into account when I'm making future decisions. But as my younger self, I didn't do that.
Wow. So tell me this. If you could have did something different, you know, what would you have done?
Honestly, like I love who I am. I love like my story. I wouldn't change anything that happened. So it's kind of hard to say because I do want to prevent other people from having to go through that. I wouldn't say right now I want to go back to prison, but that's just become like who I am, like what I've been through. So to go back and not do any of that and then picture myself being somebody else, I just can't. I couldn't imagine. I felt like what I've been through has molded who I am. And, you know, I'm okay with that. So,
yeah.
So like the lessons to learn from it, that's why I said, like, I know where I went wrong. I know where I was thinking wrong, what I was thinking about that just doesn't quite make sense. And I got to do some inner work and reflect and understand, like, what was it about myself that thought that this was okay or that didn't see that I'm being a part of a problem. So, you know, it's just something that like I just matured and I learned from my mistakes, but it's hard to even call them mistakes. Like, I guess like for the sake of conversation, I call them like regrets and stuff like that, but I don't really regret anything that I've been through.
Oh, got you. Okay, so Corinne, how you feel about any of the learning from the mistakes, you know, that you've been through, you know, in life? How can you relate to a little bit of that?
I have so many thoughts. The first thing that I want to say is, you know, as you three were talking, and particularly Andre and Keenan, what was going through my mind is people who look like me do not go to prison when they are 15. They do drugs, they do this and they do that, and they don't go to prison. And it is maddening. It's not even wrong. It's just it's evil. But there's we know this, but I just feel like it needs to be reiterated. Like there are a lot of people who look like me who have lost their soul, who want Andre to fight that guy in the bullpen to get that extra 5 years, who are almost begging young kids, young Black children in like in poor communities specifically, because those are the ones who are targeted, begging them to make these mistakes so that they can make a lot of money, and they don't care whose life it traumatizes and whose life it ruins. And I am getting so angry as I speak about this, but it's just reality. So what I want to say to those kids is, like, don't play these ignorant, soulless, wealthy people. Do not play their game. Play your game.
Yes.
That's just something that I just want to, like, jumping down from the rafters. It just breaks my heart that you know, Andre, feel like you might have felt like in that moment in the pen in the courthouse you had a win when you attacked that guy, but who really won was a lot of, frankly, like, rich white guys who made a lot of money off of the years that Andre spent in prison. And so don't play anyone else's game but your own. Is one thing that I will say about that. And then I really want to echo what Jackie said. The idea that I once heard this quote that anyone else's experience is either a path to go down or a path to avoid. And I love that wisdom. So I think about that often. And then in terms of my personal life, I've made a lot of decisions in my adulthood, and they've been what you could call kind of strange or off the beaten path. But what I've noticed is that every decision that I've made, that I've had this kind of deep sense that it was the right thing to do, even if it wasn't logical, or even if it wasn't kind of on a typical path that someone might take. Those were the best decisions that I've ever made. It was just that that decision where I listened to my gut. There was this voice in me that said, go down this direction, even though it doesn't make sense. Make this choice in life, even though it doesn't make sense. And there was one time we can now. There was one decision that I made where I did not listen to that voice, and instead I kind of had I was kind of at a crossroads and had to make a decision literally about what job to take, where to move, and I kind of panicked, and instead of sitting still and sitting quiet and listening to that inner voice and saying, what's that inner voice telling me in terms of which way to go, I just panicked and I made a decision out of fear. And that is the biggest and only regret that I have. And it's been a painful regret for over a decade that I chose the wrong path. And it was because I didn't sit still and listen to that voice. So I don't know if you call it God or a spirit inside you or whatever it is, but there is wisdom within all of us. I feel like this is very Oprah of me, but there is this wisdom in all of us that tells us this is the right thing for you. This is the best thing for you. This is how this, even though whatever this decision in front of you, it might not kind of make logical sense, or other people might be telling you, oh, you should decide, you should go with choice A and not choice B. But if your gut says go with choice B, whether that's a partner, whether that's a job, whether that's a place to move, whatever that is 100% the way to go. So that's my huge lesson learned. And if there's one person on this video chat who takes a moment and avoids making a bad decision because they just take a pause and go with their gut, I will be so grateful, because it's caused me, that one bad decision has caused me years of pain, and I don't want anyone else to experience that. So
Maria, what you got in mind? What you want to share with us and share with the young world?
It's breaking up.
Okay. All good. Yeah. We can hear you, Maria. We can hear you. Go ahead and talk a little bit.
The situation I'm going through right now is I never see myself going through this thing I'm going through. Like, I never saw myself and getting in trouble, seeing myself going to court that much. It seemed like this is not me. I'm a woman. I take care of my kids. I'm a housewoman. I choose the people that I was hanging out with. It was the wrong people. It was the wrong crowd. And just now I got to take the consequences, and there was the pain that I got to go through I never see myself going through this consequences. It's like I be depressed like every day. I be crying because this is depressing. Like I'm gonna be away from my kids, and it's like it hurts me.
Yeah, for those who don't know who Maria is, you know, in her story, she's currently facing some very serious charges because her kid's father allegedly used her licensed gun to shoot and kill somebody. She's out on bail, still fighting the charges, but she goes to court next month. And you know, for those other young people out there, young women in particular, who are in relationships with guys who are into questionable activities, I would just caution you to to pay attention to what she's saying and what she's going through, so that you don't make that same mistake. Also, I would like to help generate awareness about her case and support for her case, because a lot of times a person can get railroaded not just because that they don't know, but because the court system sees that they don't have support, that they don't have anybody around them or anybody that's there for them. They show up for court and there's nobody there. That's the same way as you show up for a fight, it's 20 of them and it's only 2 of y'all. You know what I'm saying? You look weak, you look unsupported. So I would just encourage everybody in Harrisburg and around Harrisburg to share her story, speak about her story, and show some real support to her case. I mean, even if y'all want to start a donation drive to get her a good attorney, I'm willing to contribute. I'm sure the people in my circle are willing to contribute.
Absolutely.
Whatever the case may be, man, whatever we could do to try to get her a real a better outcome. Because I'm sure we all know that when we're in that situation, we're telling everybody else, yeah, do this, you can do that, you can put the house up, one thing I notice about people is when they're in the situation, they're very, very creative about the solutions to the problem. Oh, you can do this, you can put the car up, you can get this, you can sell this, you can do this, you can do this, so when they say injustice anywhere against any of us is injustice everywhere against all of us. You know what I'm saying?
That's
so,
it.
The same support that you would want for your case, offer that same support to her. Even if it don't have to be money. It could be just, staying abreast of her case, knowing when her court date is, showing up. You know what I'm saying? Instead of going to the pool or going to the bar or going wherever or hanging out, wherever, just everybody just go down to the courthouse. We can get some T-shirts made for whatever we could do to show support and let the courts know that she's not somebody that we just gonna let you railroad.
No doubt. That's very important. Like you just said, supporting, because a lot of times, like look at her situation. She just said, she's a single mother right now. On top of that, she has kids. On top of that, just imagine how much stress she's going through right now. You know what I'm saying? She's going through a lot of things right now. The battle of whether, she's going to be able to see her kids, for the rest of her life, versus, because of the actions of someone else. You know what I'm saying? No. So there's a lot of ways, to look at that. And I know she's young. She's very young, and this is an example. To all the young ladies out there thinking it's okay to do certain things or even choosing the wrong boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? The boyfriend that's involved in the wrong things, wanting to use you for certain things. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be real mindful, again, of who you're letting around you. So again, like you said, as a whole, we're looking to support her, any type of way we can. A lot of, legal attorneys, a lot of people, I know you all watching right now, If y'all have any advice, any input, please let us know. Inboxes. We're willing to extend that extra hand.
Well, we got one person. We got at least one person that's saying they're gonna pull up.
They'll pull up. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? That's good. We appreciate that. One lead to two, two lead to three.
2 lead to 3. And even if y'all gotta drop a comment and encourage it, do so. Encourage. You know what I mean? It ain't all about okay, what we're gonna receive. Even we gotta encourage, but we're encouraging that people can be able to do something or give back in some type of way that can really help her. You know what I mean? And because that's what we're here for. We're here to bring awareness to the youth. Not just awareness, but to help them also. And
it's easy when we care about somebody. That's why I feel like it's easy for women to end up in situations like that, because when you care about somebody, that's when you tolerate the things, whatever it is that they do. You know what I mean? If you care about them, you'll care enough to understand why they like what they like or why they do what they do. And because you understand that, now you're tolerating being around it. And then, it's just like the quote about crime and how at first you were bored that Andre had mentioned last podcast. It's the same thing. If you're a woman and you get in a relationship with somebody, you start to like them, then you find out about these things. It's the same thing with friends. Like I was around, like, my friends, when I seen them selling crack and I seen how much money they made off of it, that's when I was like, well, sign me up. Like, where do I get mine at? You know what I mean? Because that now I'm seeing, first I'm around it, now I'm just used to it. It's normal to me. Now it's so normal to me that I'm getting details. Now I'm okay with that. And then and it was my boyfriend too. It was my ex-boyfriend that I got indicted with. We was together like since we were 15. When I was 18 years old, I was in college. I was at Shippensburg University. I started trafficking drugs, not with him, but with my aunt's boyfriend. And then because now I'm doing this, now I'm open to this. Now I'm like, well, I have a boyfriend in New York, so now it's nothing to me to start going up there and bringing this back. So now it just opened up a door to something that just became normal over time. It wasn't like, like the Bonnie and Clyde thing that you see in the movies that people like imagine when you talk about getting indicted and going to prison and everything that comes with, what happens afterwards. Yeah. But it just happens over time because we get used to, we make excuses for people that we care about. I honestly, even when I got indicted, I knew that it was time to stop, but it was difficult because not because of me. It was really, for me, it's really easy for me to just switch hats, but for him, it wasn't like that. And then he did have charges. He was on the run. It just made it so it was like we were just stuck to something that just ended up eventually had to crash and burn before the growth could come from it.
Wow.
Now somebody made a comment, that's important. Melly Mel, there's not enough transparency in the world. And that's and part of that, I know part of that is the news. Part of that is Fox News, CNN, all these local news stations. I know I talk about the news a lot, but Malcolm X said the news is America's media is the most powerful tool it ever had, it has, and ever will have. And they control us through the news. They control us, with the media. They control, the conversation. They control how long we talk about the conversation. They control what's important, what should be important. They pressure who should get vaccinated, who shouldn't. This is how they could, this is how they press the buttons. So,
absolutely.
Through social media, through platforms like this, through creating, panels and groups and discussions of everyday people and relatable people, we hope that we can change the narrative. We can change, what these discussions are, what these discussions are, how long these discussions go on, who gets to weigh in on them, and so forth and so on. I would not want, somebody from CNN on this conversation, because I noticed the minute they start talking, they're gonna start brainwashing. Oh, the statistics say la 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 la. They always trying to dictate the conversation. You know what I'm saying? When in all actuality, the people who live there, the people who suffered through it, the people who've been through it, the people who are directly connected to it have an intimate understanding, a more intimate understanding than these people that live up in the hills, never been in, nobody's ghetto, and so forth and so on. They are not the authority to me. You follow what I'm saying? They are not my authority. I do not run to the news every time something happens and say, let me see what they got to say. They are not authorities to me.
Yeah.
I want to hear from the people who are in it, the people
It's
who are going through it.
Yeah,
exactly. That's my thing.
Exactly. And I believe there's no better way but to get it from the source, the people that's going through it. As we mentioned before, some of the toughest people that know that law are a lot of lifers and people that's on death row, right? So when we looking for that type of advice, a lot of times what they say is an expert witness, what they look for. A lot of times the best expert witness are the people that's inside. They know what's going on out here, whether it be the law, whether it be on the street, whatever the case may be. So a lot of these people with these theoretical degrees and all this, all this knowledge with no application, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that if you don't have the experience, you can't learn. No, it goes hand to hand. But it's good to always have that experience too. You know what I'm saying? The same way we had experience with the law and criminal activity was the same way we was able to enhance that by you getting a paralegal degree. You know what I'm saying? Me studying the law, but was able to get other certifications, et cetera, et cetera. But still, it's still important, like you said, to deal with people that's in the midst of this, that knows it well. You know what I'm saying? You've been locked down, confinement for years. And you were in confinement inside confinement. You know what I'm saying? So that's a deeper, a darker view. You know what I mean? So my thing is, extending back just a little bit to, like you say, learning from the mistakes. These are the type of things we got to think about, especially with the youth. You got to think about these things. What you putting yourself in, what predicament you putting yourself in from these consequences. You know what I'm saying? Here it is. Like I said, a young lady like Maria here, she's like, Dad, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? I'm panicking. You know what I mean? This thing is serious. Them bars are serious. You don't know the outcome. They keep postponing. They keep giving you another. They keep subpoenaing you, giving you another date. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what the outcome going to be. Are we going to waive the preliminary? What's going on? So now, here we waiting. Like I said again, we waiting for the PD to make a move. When 9 times out of 10, they working with the DA to try to get promotions or get so many convictions so they can get a promotion in somewhere in the court system. You know what I'm saying? This is all a game. It's all, and I think me and Andre was talking earlier about, how this all is still modern day plantation. You know what I'm saying? This is modern day slavery going on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, yes, we have a lot of bodies. You got more prisons being built than there is schools out here. You know what I mean? We building more prisons than people getting education. How backwards is that?
And it costs more. It costs more to keep somebody in prison than it do to send them to college.
Exactly. Last time I checked, I think it was about $102,000 a year to keep a prisoner in there. $102,000 a year. Where somebody can get a ride to college, you know what I'm saying? To get an associate's degree, you know what I mean? And then eventually, a bachelor's. Just imagine 100 years, this every year.
You got to think about it. They're not only paying that, but they're also paying to raise people's children, because a lot of people's children are being raised by the system as well. So it's you're not only taking care of the woman or the man, then you got a child or a family out here that the system's taking care of too. Yep. That wouldn't need that assistance if that person was able to either be home or make some money, make real money for their family.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Making more money, and the system is just, and then it's like a revolving door. The recidivism rate is high because people are not catching the lesson. People are not taking responsibility or learning from the lessons they've been through. You had so many grown men running in and out. Oh yeah, I'm back. What's up? No, ain't no what's up, man. You keep coming back in this joint, man. Like, you got kids out there. Your kids raising kids. Then they turn around trying to look for, fatherly figures in the wrong men. Then you wonder why they getting abused physically, sexually. You know what I'm saying? And this go, like I say, this platform goes out to a lot of grown men too. Y'all know who y'all are. Some of y'all probably on parole. Some of y'all, you know, that probably just got out. You know what I'm saying? Going back to the same stuff already. You'd rather chill in the street corner with your hands in your pants than going in the house and teaching your son or your kid or your daughter, you know, the right from wrong. Teach them about the birds and the bees. Don't worry about no snakes and the rats. You know what I'm saying? But this is the mentality of today. This is the mentality of today's people. You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't mean, like I said, I don't mean to hog this, but like I say, my heart goes out to the Sister Maria here, you know, going through the things she's going through. You know what I'm saying? And we're trying to, you know, show you all, you know, a different outlet. You know what I'm saying? And Andre, if you could just iterate this a little bit again, you know, for some people that just logged on, of the situation that she's going through right now, that people have to learn from, you know, and really see what's going on, because this thing is serious, man.
I got a
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
So it's like it hurts me because then I don't want like my kids. They're going to try to take my kids away from me because they're going to try to put my kids in the system. Sure, I be a smart one and let my mom to have my kids. If not going to work, I do go to jail. Like
They can't take your kids if your mom's there. That happens when you don't have somebody to take your children for you.
okay.
But just because you go to prison doesn't mean they're going to take your children. That's like if you leave your children with somebody and then that person can't care for your children anymore, then that can happen. So it's good to have somebody in place and also have backups in place just in case somebody can't come through for you.
And I think what we should do, we should probably deliberate on, we should probably try to sign a petition, get a petition going on for Maria, you know, about, I forget the exact case law, but it's something about, you know, with the situation you're in, they won't, you know, force her in jail, especially if she got things going on. She has employment, you know, she has kids, she's taking care of business, you know what I'm saying? It's not like she's a negligent, you know, in negligence, you know, towards her kids or her family. Just a situation happened. Being as though she's out on bail, you know, she's proven and walking her steps through. So we should probably do like some type of petition or try to look into that, Andre. You know what I'm saying? We'll look something into that to try to get something in motion.
And Jackie and Maria should be linking up with Jackie, because Jackie's, you know, is a part of that company. You know, she has her own company where she mentors young people and so forth and so on. Having a mentor come in and speak on your behalf and say, you know, I've been mentoring her and so forth and so on. That's good too. You know, that go a long way.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we just need to put some protection. And yeah, I agree. Like, you know, I'm with whatever.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Karen.
Something I'm thinking about as we're having this conversation is that, you know, we've talked a lot about like don't get entered into the system. Don't get pulled into the system. But then of course the problem is that the system exists to begin with. So you know, the other piece of it is that I said this last week, I'll say it again. For people who aren't directly involved in the system, I know 2 people who have been to jail, and they actually did need to go to jail. Their crimes were not nonviolent drug crimes. Their crimes were not conspiracy. Their crimes were not that someone they legitimately should have been in jail for their crimes. For those that get sucked into the system and should not be in jail, we need to abolish the system. We need to dismantle mass incarceration. And so my message to folks who are not who do not have people who get sucked into the system in a way that's where they shouldn't be there is, well, what are we doing to abolish the system? What are we doing to change the system? The absolute minimum that we can be doing is to donate to organizations that are trying to end mass incarceration. So you've got the Sentencing Project, you've got the Innocence Project, you've got Families Against Mandatory Minimums. There's so many organizations out there who understand what an evil the system is and who are trying to change it. And then for me, my thought is that, you know, the first thing I can do is to contribute money to one of these organizations. If I've got $25 to contribute, great. If I've got 50, if I've got 100, whatever folks really have to contribute. And then to get active, to start writing to 90% of folks who are incarcerated at the state level, not the federal level. So this is a state problem. So so start writing to your state representatives to end mandatory minimum sentences. Mandatory minimum sentences were, I believe, they got established in the 80s, and they, for anyone not familiar, they make it so that nonviolent drug crimes land you in jail for 10 years or 20 years. It's ludicrous. It's absolutely insane. And so my call is to folks is to start doing what you can do to end the system. Because a lot of folks who come from the community where I grew up will say, oh, well, the kids, they should just do better. They should just do better, and they shouldn't, and they should know better, and they just, if they acted right, then they wouldn't get caught up in that. Well, no, folks are very vulnerable to getting caught up in it, and the system is trying to get kids to get caught up in it. So it's the system that's evil. We need to change the system.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Changing that system, changing the way, you know, these laws, like, you know, sometimes I think they got something that's out. I think the reform thing, I believe, I think Van Jones and Meek Mills and them was like starting it up. It was some things, somebody was speaking to me about it, and it was some things, you know, of how the system is. The system is designed, you know, to allow people to fail, you know, or not necessarily do that in a way, but to keep you down. You know what I'm saying? To tie you down. They know that, you know, once you stack the charges on somebody, right? Even if they drop them, right? Drop certain charges, you still got to go to the courthouse to get those off your record. You know what I'm saying? But here it is, it's still on your record. Or if you go to a job and they run your record, you know, your history, they saying, nah, because you got this on your record, this, and people don't know where to go. So now people are frustrated. But at the same time, ignorance, you know, towards the law, they do say there's no excuse, but that doesn't give us an excuse not to learn. You know what I'm saying? We have to still want to learn and still understand these things. But you're right. We got to, you know, as a whole, as a people, you know, us being united, you know what I'm saying? It could do a lot. It could do a lot. You know what I mean? So, you know, but yeah, like I say, learning from those mistakes. Learning from those mistakes are huge. You know, like I said, Go ahead.
Check this out, though, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the same problem that exists in the prisons is the same problem that exists in society with regard to the fact that most people are afraid of the system. So soon when you start talking about fighting the system, same way, you know, on the plantation, they like, oh, he tripping. You know what I'm saying? Oh, she tripping. She talking about, oh, we ain't going against the massa. You know what I'm saying? So even though like outwardly people might say, oh yeah, you know, we're against this or we're for this and we're for that, you know, the system specializes in instilling fear and, you know, in people's hearts and what's the word I'm looking for? You know, in decision, like being indecisive, like you start like, yeah, you know, like intimidating people, like, yeah, don't do this because if you do this, then that might happen. You know, if you do that, then that might, same thing that happened to him going to happen to you. And you think I'm saying? The same, it's the same slave system. It's the same slave process. They position, you know, same way they would give certain slaves jobs, you know, above the so-called field niggas. You dig what I'm saying? It's the same thing they do with a lot of these celebrities. You know what I'm saying? They do the same thing. They give certain celebrities platforms and put them in certain positions to try to keep us in, you know, keep us in place. Oh, yeah. You dig what I'm saying? But they know that these are the type of people, they put these type of people in position because these people are not delivering the type of message that, you know, results in resistance against the system. You dig what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. It's the same slave system. So we got to be aware of this kind of thing. And my thing is, you know, I want to fight with the people who are not afraid. I don't, you know, I want to fight with the people that are pressing the button. You dig what I'm saying? So, you know, if we going, you know, do petitions, if we going to do all this different stuff, don't get me wrong, like, you know, all of that stuff has its place. But I feel the biggest barrier to freedom in America is what exists in people's hearts and what exists in people's minds. Until we really focus on freeing ourselves, cleansing our minds, keeping a lot of that nonsense out that they be trying to feed us in the news, you know, we gonna stay shackled, mentally shackled, emotionally shackled.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So all these, you know, avenues that exist, that assist in freedom or complement, you know, the fight for freedom, or just, you know, theoretics. You know what I mean? They're possibilities. Predicated on whether we want it enough.
Yeah, that's true. That's
I
absolutely true.
I wanted to clarify. So, you know, when I was talking about the obligation to dismantle the system, to dismantle mass incarceration, I was talking to other white folks who are not pulled in the system. Because I think it's really important. White folks have a really bad tendency to talk to people of color about what they should be doing. And for me, that's another example of white supremacy, because because of the color of my skin, I was never sucked into any of these experiences that the other folks in this call are. So what right do I have to say, oh, you need to do this or you shouldn't do this? That for me, that's ludicrous. But I'm talking to other white folks who, and I love that you made the analogy of slavery. Mass incarceration is another form of slavery. So let's say it's let's say it's 1830, and I'm a white person in New England, and I'm not a slave owner. I know what's going on in this country, but I'm not a slave owner. I'm not really involved. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of for other people to deal with. That's not really for me to deal with. No. You are a human being. You are a citizen of this country. You are responsible for doing something about this. And so just in the same way that a white New Englander in the 1830s is responsible for ending slavery, white folks anywhere in this country who are not pulled into the system or directly involved are responsible for ending it. And in fact, I would say have the most responsibility, because what we forget or don't think about is that this is actually a white people problem. White people created the system for their benefit. So why aren't white folks working to end it? That makes no sense to me.
So now what I would say is fear. Now, this is a different type of fear. I feel like the system pits all of us against each other, right? They pit all of us against each other because they don't want us to join as one force. Because once we join as one force, then we become, you know, you can't control us then. So one of the fears that I feel like white people have is that, you know, subconsciously white people know that they benefit from racism, they benefit from slavery, they benefit from all the things that happen to so-called poor and disadvantaged, disadvantaged people. So there's a status thing, there's a status thing that, white people could go into this particular job and get this job. You think I'm saying? They can walk, freely up and down the street and not get shot in the back of the head by the police. They can, cross the lines. I mean, we've seen situations where white people have had all out standoffs, armed standoffs with the police and didn't get shot and nobody got shot. You follow what I'm saying? That's one of the benefits, those are some of the benefits of being white. And I think that there are a lot of white people that enjoy those benefits and don't want to give them up. They don't want to give them up, even if it's at the expense of this so-called, other race or other group. You follow what I'm saying? Being killed and being mistreated, on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And, I see it firsthand. I know folks who, you described that idea from what I understood of your, that you were saying, is the idea that like, well, if you've got nothing else, at least you're white. We'll give you that. So that's kind of some esteem or some power that you can claim to. It's false, but that's some kind of, and I know people who subscribe to white supremacy for exactly that reason. They use it like a drug, like anyone else someone tries to balm their pain with cocaine or with booze, or some people, I think a lot of white folks use white supremacy to try and balm their insecurities, balm their pain, that kind of thing, self-medicate. It's tough because I guess what I'm speaking to is what MLK Jr. will call the white moderate. There's a lot of folks white folks who subscribe to white supremacy. There's also a lot of white folks who are like, ooh, something is really wrong, and I'm healthy enough to know that that's wrong, and I do care about that, and that does bother me. And those are the folks who I'm talking to. The folks who say like, I know something's wrong, but. And just they move into paralysis or inaction. And so my push to them is to say, no, you don't have the responsibility to change everything, because no one person can do that, but you've got a responsibility to contribute to ending mass incarceration and to ending, of course, white supremacy.
What you think, Jackie?
I don't know. I feel like it's hard for me to think about like what white people think or what their whole thing is when it comes to that and what they should do. I know my mom is white, and on a day-to-day basis, like, I don't know, I guess that makes my reality different for other people, because I see her struggles and I see her, when I say struggles, I mean like trying to understand different topics that come up that are controversial, and trying to understand how to like, why is this offensive or why is that offensive? Like, how is this? Because she has the purest of intentions, you know what I mean, when it comes to when it comes to matters like that, because she cares about obviously me and my sister. Like, I know I look Hispanic, but I'm actually Black, and my dad is Black, my family's Black, my friends are Black. My mom cares about everybody that's around her. She's actually like the minority in our circle, but I don't know. I guess I feel like I see the steps that she makes and the steps and what she tries to do. So I'm not like jaded to feel like all white people are this or are that. I understand that they're trying, like how like Corinne is trying to do her part and what she could do to raise awareness or to change the narrative or whatever's going on. Honestly, I don't know what could work. I don't know if that will work. If it's something that's just because even outside of, the United States, like racism, colorism, those are always going to be issues. I personally don't focus on those things because, like I was saying before, I'm more like that's why I really like with the Supreme Network Global and like establishing a universal identity and not really, I don't focus on problems basically. I feel like those things hinder me and pull me down if I think like that or if I think that these things are controlling me. But they actually don't, and they don't control my life only if I allow them to. So.
Yeah. That's a good point. And like you said, although a lot of these things do exist, it is reality. I do believe that it's up to us to be that change. Like Muhammad Gandhi has said, we must be the change we want to see in the world. So by us, even coming unifying, allow us for a good cause, you know what I'm saying, to help the people, to help the youth, to, make a change. We got to be the change. So I believe with this platform and us, engaging more and more, people seeing this unity, it's going to begin to break change for people. This thing is helping. Our testimonies, our life, challenging events that we've been through. These are the things that's going to help people. You know what I mean? So again, as Ms. Shannon said, unity is everything. We should be able to walk down the street and speak to anybody. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't have to turn our heads, when we see somebody of another culture, or we turn our nah. Hey, how you doing? You're a human being. It's not until we're an adult, that we start thinking these things. When we're kids, when you see how many videos you see with little kids, they just run and go hug each other. Hey, you okay? This and that, third, because they don't have no brain to rationalize. They're taught that growing up. It's in culture. You're taught that growing up. You know what I'm saying?
People don't realize these are all our personal experiences that we put on different people. And I feel like it's like a generalization thing, like just thinking because I might only know one Cambodian family. And just because that's the only family I know, I don't realize that I do that, but I automatically have a reflection of them on everybody that I know who's of that culture, of what I imagine, the things that they like, the things that they like to do. And those are like the little small things how they talk about, like microaggressions and things like that. Like those things come from our tiny assumptions that we make, that we think we know, just because I might just not just think that you don't like going hunting and fishing and things like that just because of your skin tone. When honestly, people think I'm weird for the things that they say, oh, that's my white side, because I like to do different things that have to do with nature and stuff like that. Like I feel like that's my native side, like getting to like close to the earth, but for some reason, like, I guess it's not hood. Like,
and it's crazy because, like you just said, I feel as though it's neither side. It's who you are, who you feel you are. We don't have to run around and try to be somebody that somebody else wants us to be. Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? If we like to do something, like for instance, like, okay, if I date, okay, if I like Hispanic women, Puerto Rican women, okay, that's my preference. You know what I'm saying? Like, or for instance, like what I see a lot, right? Like for instance, like, okay, I play piano. If I go to certain churches, automatically, right? Especially if I'm going to another church, like say I'm going to a Hispanic church or wherever, automatically they say, oh, okay, that's a Moreno, or this is a black guy. But then when they hear me play a corrido or salsa type of music, or even somewhere, or even a different style of music, they think, hold up, he must be Spanish or he must be Puerto Rican. What in your mind think that music has a culture? Music is music. The note is a note. An A flat is an A flat in any culture. It's just the rhythm you play. You see what I'm saying? So people have it fixated in mind, like, okay, we hear a person speak Spanish. Oh, but he's right. Oh, he must be Dominican. Oh, you know what I'm saying? But that's just the way reality is. A lot of people think that way. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, as long as you cool with who you are, like me, I don't have no problem. I can walk anywhere. Yo, what's up? Hey, how you doing? I don't care if you black, blue, white, yellow. A lot of people can attest to that. A lot of churches, a lot of places I've been, I just go, hey, and smile. Hey, what's up? How you doing? They look at me like I'm crazy because they're not used to that. But it's up to us to break that type of cycle. You know what I'm saying? Us even just coming together to converse. None of us argue. We don't talk over each other and all that. And we get along just fine. But it's people out here, the world that has that that type of mindset, that wants that type of confrontation. Like, no, as soon as I see you, I should be like, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean?
Let me ask y'all something. Who came up with the idea that black people can't swim?
I don't know. There's so many different things that black people can't do that I like to do. So
I don't know where that came. Now, mind you, I grew up like 30 feet from a public pool.
Yeah. So
all of my friends swam.
Yeah.
That's all we did. So I don't know where that came from.
But a lot of people can't. And that's true. I mean, I can swim. I mean, people can swim. I know a lot of people that can swim, but it's a lot of people that haven't been brought up around the public.
But then it's like, because getting in the ocean, like getting in natural waters, that's the big thing. So it's like a pool is okay, but if you want to actually go to the beach and get in the ocean, that's one of the things I get looked at weird about, because I want to actually get in the ocean. I want to see the fish.
Yeah, I want to be able to see the clear waters. I was just looking at something my cousin put me D on some island called what is it? Turks and
Turks and Caicos.
Turks and Caicos.
Yeah.
Where's the water over there? I gotta take it, but that's for the ultra rich though. But we gonna get there though. But yeah, they got the water. You just see right at the bottom. I was like, but yeah, But again, like I say, learning from our mistakes, learning from them is crucial. Like I said, I'll be the first to say, like, yo, that crowd I was with, no longer associating with them because, like I said, it costs you time. The company you keep will cost you some time.
I seen his post online a couple days ago by Rodell Hunter. Shout out to Rodell. He said, man, I look back. It was something along the line, just to paraphrase. I don't remember exactly what he said. But he said, I look back and feel like such a fool that I was doing so many things to impress these other people. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Impress yourself.
Just to impress.
Do for yourself,
Yeah. Just look at
do it for you. Do it for your kids. Do it for your mom. Do it for, like all those different type of things. Be a better son. Be a better father. Be a better leader. Be a better, that's the type of stuff I look at.
Yeah.
But in those times, like it was do it for the homies. Do it for your friends. Do it for the hood. All that different type of stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like you said,
a lot of kids still struggling with that, man.
Struggling. Facebook. Look, they on there with these stacks of money, right? On Instagram, stacks of money. No, good. Well, it ain't that money. Like I'm saying, why you got stacks of money you want to be and put on the show? Then you going broke trying to keep up with cats. It's not their real stuff. It's not their real cars. It's not their real they house, whatever they at the pool. Like, yeah, that's what we do. This the drip I got. Like, yo, you pull up on these cats. These cats ain't got nothing. Like, you like, hold up. I thought you had all these not on Instagram, all this money, but now, oh no, I was just playing. Nah, what you mean? But that's just how it is. Like people just want to put on that fat, put on that front, as if they that bull and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right, Machina. The music is a universal language. It goes everywhere. It's a matter of the rhythm. Different rhythms, African rhythm, gospel rhythm, classical rhythm. You know what I'm saying? The Latin rhythm. You got so many, the Chinese rhythm. Like it's different types of rhythms. Like, but going back to the kids though. They just you get caught up in that, wanting to meet expectations of other people, wanting acceptance. Acceptance will get you in trouble, man. That acceptance, I want to fit in with that cool crowd. But look, we was all hard-headed at once too. We was all hard-headed, but we didn't have these social media platforms either. We didn't have, people that could talk these talks. I mean, you had little VH1s that used to show at schools and stuff like that, but you wasn't paying that mind. We were worrying about the girl that was sitting next to us and all that. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's a lot of advantage. Like you said, it's the media. The way we dress this media up now is the way, especially if we can get to these kids, it'll have a huge impact on them, and especially in these different cities, Philadelphia, New York, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, DC, Baltimore, all these places, California, everywhere. We can really have a huge impact. Like this is serious. So
yeah. I was going to say, I think that's the reason why too, that it's important what we're doing to pay it, like, because we gotta take note of the fact that the people that we want to reach, like even if this was going around at the time when I was in the streets and I was doing what I was doing, I wouldn't be tuned into this. You know what I mean? So it's like a responsibility we have to spread that light and to reach out and to see people around us and to influence them, even though they're not, you know what I mean? They're not in the direct path to receive this information, because you might know somebody that's honestly, I don't even know about that, because like I said, it's not like I wasn't warned. It's not like I wasn't, we just got to do our part, I guess, and just be an inspiration. Like, I feel like the only thing I can do is be an example and just show that if I can do it, it's not a reason why you can't do it.
Absolutely.
If these odds are stacked against me and they're stacked against you, or they're whatever, like whatever the thing is, like you know what I mean. That's my thing, is just to
Absolutely.
show and prove.
Absolutely. Yeah. You
Some,
Mhm.
there's one other um, a piece of advice that I received that I thought of that I want to share because it's been so helpful to me, and it's of course along the lines of the lessons learned. I heard someone say one time, whenever I'm in a situation that is stressful or challenging or scary, whatever it is, after the situation, I ask myself, okay, what role did I play in that? Was I 3% of the issue? Was I 95% of the issue? And even more so than that, what could I have done differently to avoid that? So maybe there's a toxic person in my life and they berated me and they said all these awful things to me, which is obviously that's not within my power. But maybe my mistake was simply that I engaged with that person, knowing that they would speak like that. So maybe my lesson learned is like, okay, next time I see that person, like I'm just going to create a boundary with them, or literally any stressful, challenging situation. I've been doing this practice now for probably 5 or 6 years, and it's made my life less stressful, and it's also made me more confident because it's empowered me to like avoid problems. So I'm not dealing with the same problem over and over again because I found a way to avoid that problem in the future. So I mean, even I a few years ago I was late for a
My
meeting, an
phone
important
died.
meeting. I was mortified, and I literally just kind of thought like, okay, well, now I'm going to like check my calendar every night at 6 p.m. The day before to make sure that I know when all my meetings are. So I was just so I took that advice and just began to think about very practical things that I could put in place to whatever issue that I ran into to avoid having that same issue happen 1 week from now, 1 month from now, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hmm.
I think too people think that um by being told that they're doing something wrong or that they could do something better, that somehow negates their beauty, their greatness, or their competence. So I think that there's a certain way to go about things. There's work to be done to try to open people up to, make sure they understand that I'm just trying to give you something that I think is going to help you. At the end of the day, like whether they take it or not is really, is really up to them. But Jackie said that she felt like, she was being, told, she was being told what to do or what not to do. I was being told what not to do from my mom. But I had much bigger influences and more consistent figures in my life than my mom. I feel like we spend a lot more time with our friends in school and the streets and all of that different type of stuff than we do with our parents. And I think that kids in particular need some type of outlet, man. They just need some type of outlet. A place to go, a group to go to, or groups, to go to whenever they're in a bad situation, whatever they just need advice. You remember that movie, Coach Carter? That's one of my favorite movies.
Coach Carter.
Coach Carter, that's one of my favorite movies right there. Gridiron Gang.
Remember
that's
the
one of my
Titans?
favorite movies.
Remember the Titans?
I seen that movie, but like for some reason, like I didn't catch the whole movie. But I do remember, was Denzel in that movie?
Yeah, you gotta catch
Remember
that.
Titans is good. That's a good one.
You gotta catch that. You gotta catch.
I don't think I like followed it all the way through. But those type. Now, see, Coach Carter was very significant, because it showed how this kid was trying to choose between the right path and the wrong path. And he had his cousin Rennie, who was a drug dealer, who he looked up to, who had influence over him, giving him the pack, giving him drugs, he making money, his friends is making money. But then he had his friends that he played basketball with who, he felt like they was really cool, you know what I mean? Like they was really down for each other. They cared about each other. And he was trying to choose between the two. These guys over here, they got, you know, Beamers and leather coats and jewelry and so forth and so on. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to make this choice. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to tell you something that was significant in that movie with Coach Carter was that those kids thought that because he, you know, he came with kindness and love and concern, and he had a suit on and he talked smooth, that he was soft. You know what I'm saying? They thought that he was soft. So they, you know, they mocked him and you know and you know made fun of him and stuff like that when he first came to the gym. And then the kid tried to swing on him. Remember the kid tried to swing on him? Yeah. He twisted him up and threw him up against the wall and all that. See, that gave him a certain level of respect. Like, oh, like, yeah, like, yeah, he talk nice and he is nice, but he's not a pushover. You know what I'm saying? For that group of kids, like those type of kids that feel like they super, you know, like they super tough and untouchable and can't be put in place, you gotta have somebody that know how to keep him in line. You got to. Or they not gonna respect you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not out of like malice, like you trying to hurt them or anything like that, but they just need to know that, you know, that you really identify, like you really identify with them. I'm not this guy from, you know, Harvard or Yale that's coming down here talking down to you and telling you, you know, all the things that you're doing wrong, or I'm telling you something that, you know, I read in the book, or I'm telling you that I really relate to what you're going through. I understand what you're going through, and I'm telling you that, you know, it's about to end bad for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, that mentorship is everything. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, pouring into them, letting them know certain things. Every time we get a chance, pour into the youth, pour into them, man, because we probably the only change or the only change they're gonna ever see. You know what I mean? The pops, again, like you said, the pops is willing to die for their homies on the street rather than live for their kids out here. You know what I'm saying? They'd rather go to jail for their homies rather than provide and work a job out here for their kids. So, like you said, a lot of influence they may see is right here on the social media. Some may. You know what I mean?
Like my heart got real warm, man, when I seen that video that Jackie did with them kids and they was painting them rocks.
Oh yeah,
pulling the weeds and all that. I know her sister gave her niece the water hose. Spraying the water and all that. You know what I'm saying? That's
yeah, we had fun. That was nice.
Yeah, like I feel like, you know, like that's where everything should be at, man. Like that's where the focus should be at. You know what I mean? Like you go on Instagram, you go on, you know, these social media sites, and you see people just totally absorbed in themselves, you know, and you know, these kids getting lost. You know what I mean? These kids, I know personally that these kids is creating fake accounts, you know, on these social media sites. They hearing about it, and they thinking something, you know, something major's going on, and they go on there, and what do they see? Stuff like Keenan talk about. People sitting in front of other people's cars, acting like it's theirs, you know, all this money, and then they like, oh, this is what these adults are talking about. This is what my mom been talking about, you know, and then they confused. You know what I'm saying? But you know, we just gotta be, you know, careful and responsible of the type of messages that we sending them, because they paying attention. They're so into you know, all these different social media sites that adults talk about, that they're creating fake accounts, and you know, they you know, going in there seeing what's what, and they following what they seeing. So you know, I feel a certain responsibility, and you know, I hope that, you know, people just pay attention that, you know, this social media is really raising people. You know what I mean? It's really raising these kids. Oh, they being raised. My nephew he sits on YouTube all day long. When I was in prison, I used to call, and he used to be like, what you doing? He'd be like, watching YouTube. Like in my mind, I used to be like, he's always watching YouTube. But when I brought him to my house, and I seen he's literally on YouTube all day long.
Mm.
You know,
Yep.
so these kids are being raised by social media. You know what I'm saying? You know, yeah, parents can monitor what the kids do and all that stuff. That's good. But I mean, as a community, as adults, I just think that we should be thinking, with that in mind when we post, when we share. It's a community. It's really a community platform. It's an international community platform now.
Absolutely.
So, I'm just concerned about the kids, man. I just want to see these cycles broken. You know what I'm saying? And the only way we gonna break them is, by changing the way that we think and passing a new way on to the people that come behind us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, you're right. That's all we can do. Learn from each other's mistakes. You know what I mean? Learn from our mistakes. I'm hoping that this message, the way we elaborated, really reaches, the adults, the juveniles, et cetera, et cetera. I really hope that this really goes far. You know what I'm saying? As we constantly continue to grow. Mentorship is key. We just need people that are willing to be open to being a mentor. That's true. I agree, Shannon. That's absolutely true. Shout out to Shannon, Mark. Congratulations on your anniversary and everything. It's amazing. But like you're right, we got to be open to be mentors. We got to be mentors, not homies, not all my big sis. No, mentors. Be there showing them different things, showing them different avenues on what and what not to do. You know what I'm saying? You got to be the example. Be the example you want them to see. You know what I mean? So that's huge. Say the kids are our future. They're going to raise the generations to come. They can't raise children if no one is raising, coaching, or pouring into them. You're right. You got kids out here raising kids. They when I raise themselves, they don't know what's going on. And then sometimes the parents just as worse. They going out clubbing, leaving their kids at the house and thinking, I'm going to Atlantic City, you can watch the kids. Not knowing what their kids getting into. Whoever house you drop them over, y'all pacify them with the social media and these telephones and tablets and all that. And letting them go outside. So that's another story, but we'll get to it. People are attached to attention in whatever form. Yeah. Attention. People want gratification, acceptance. They want people to be like, oh, look at you. I believe we need to go back to it takes a village and really be there for the children. You're right. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes two to make one. It takes two to make one. But it takes that village, take that family. That family for them to have that connected mindset. That's huge. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So I'm gonna share something with y'all, man, that really it stood out to me. There's a few. There's a lot of experiences, but there's a few that really stood out to me. Experiences that I had, conversations that I had with people in prison. I know this one guy named Lowe, right? Now, mind you, most people say they don't want no other man to touch their child, so forth and so on. You could be with my baby mom, but don't hit my son, and so forth and so on. I'm talking to this guy, and he was like, man, I want that man to discipline my son. He said, I don't want my son growing up thinking he could do whatever he want to do. I'm not there to do it. If I was there, I would be disciplining him. So
some guys
be
saying that, but they don't be in their kids' life though. They be like, oh, don't put your hands on my kids. You're not my kid's stepdad, but you don't be there for just your kids.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Yeah, like they'll say, don't put your hand on my son, but they're not around to discipline him or guide him in any other way. So this child, as a result, is out of order and out of control. But the only thing they got to say is, don't put your hand on my son. You know what I'm saying? But that was one of the things that stuck out to me. He's like, man, I want that man to discipline my son. He said, I'm not there. He said, if I was there, I would be disciplining him. So he got my go ahead. He's like literally like one of the only people that I ever heard talk like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like that stood out to me.
It makes me think that like for me, pouring into kids is literally the most powerful thing that you can do. You know, and I think like I don't need to be super rich. I just need to, you know, get by and have a nice life. I don't want a lot of money. I want legacy. I want to leave this earth and people's lives are changed for the better because I was on it. And there's a bunch of different ways that I can do that. I can work to end mass incarceration. We've talked about that. But the other thing is, I am not a parent myself. I am an aunt to 5 kids, and I pour into those kids. I love on them. I contribute money to their college savings. Like anything I can do to love on them, to respect them, to be present to them, I do. And I know I can see that they're 7 and under. I see how much it means to them, even at their age. And it is the most powerful thing that I do. And it's also it is the most fulfilling. So it's not like, oh, I'm giving, and then I'm just exhausted at the end of the day, or I'm resentful or whatever. No, it's actually really powerful and empowering, and it satisfies my soul in an incredible way. And you know, I think about what Jackie's doing. Jackie's not even doing this. When I talk about my nieces and nephews, they are my sister's kids and my friends' kids. You know, Jackie's doing this for like. I don't know exactly how you're connected with these children, but that is the most powerful thing that you can do is pour into a child and love in that child and support that child however you can. And I know it sounds really cliche and corny, but it's just the truth. And like for me, power is legacy, and that's going to be one of my legacy is those 5 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now to me that doesn't sound cliche and corny. Like, see. I'm sorry I keep talking about the media, but like the thing is, they tell us who we should elevate. They tell us who's important. They use their money and they shove down our throats these senators, these representatives, these people who don't never come in the community, who don't do anything for the community, who only use the community to advance their own cause. So when you elevate somebody like Jackie, who's out there really doing the work, to me, like there's nothing cliche about that. Like that's real, that's raw, that's what's supposed to be happening. We supposed to be elevating, acknowledging, and honoring the people that are out there doing the stuff that we talking about, that we actually envision for our community.
Exactly.
And honestly, my children are built up and based off of the people that are closest to me. So my nieces and my nephews, they are included. My friends' children, they are included. I don't actually have any children of my own. I feel like how you feel like, you know, you pour into your nieces and your nephews everything that you can. I feel like what I can do personally is help to make our environment better, because if everybody's solution is to do better and then move away, then what does that do for the people that are left here, or that, you know, my base is here, my family's here. So if we move away and go different places, I don't feel like that's beneficial. I feel like, you know, when I do have children, I feel like I'm preparing my environment for them before they get here, and I can, you know, just make it better for the kids that are already here that I do care about, and I care about the neighbors, like any kid. It's not just, you know, the kids that I love because they're my family. I feel like they're all important. If you're going to go to school with my niece or my nephew, you're just as important as my niece or my nephew. You're going to influence them. Just how Andre was talking about how our parents, we're not around them that often. We're not. We're around our friends and we're around the people that we go choose to be around. So if what's common, what we like to do, if the normal things aren't illegal, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's what's, you know,
Yeah.
we like to do things that we shouldn't do, and that's the narrative that I want to change.
Yeah, and Adriana right there, she brings up a good point. You know, creating a better cycle. You know, a better cycle is, you know, breaking chains. You know, those generational curses. Like you said, instead of, you know, having those generational curses, we can build generational wealth. You know, we can try to reframe the minds of our kids and growing them up. And, and like I said, again, it starts with the household. It starts with the people that's raising the kids up. The kids aren't bad. They're being trained. Just like they try to say, oh, pit bulls are bad. No, pit bulls are not bad dogs. You know what I'm saying? It's who the owners are, who raising them up. You know what I'm saying? Everything we do in life, affects our kids. It affects the upbringing. So it's very important that, we teach our kids what's right. Teach them what's moral. Teach them proper etiquette. You know what I mean? Like Andre mentioned earlier when the kids was talking about, this is what we going to do to these other kids. We put it on social media and all. Like, come on. Who's monitoring these kids? You know what I mean? They thinking it's cool. We can flash guns on TV and stuff. It's not cool. It said we need to invest in our children and be present for those who don't have someone to look right. Children, and also try to look for ones that don't. How many of us at times, like I remember when my mom was raising us and I had friends and stuff, their moms wasn't really involved in their lives. So they used to always come to like my house and stuff like that and try to eat, you know what I'm saying, get food and meals, which is okay because my mom would always feed, it's okay. But they just showed like the type of mentorship that they really wanted, or the mother figure that they really wanted, or the father figure that they really want. You know what I mean? But we have to do it. It has to start creating that new cycle, breaking those chains. And that's how we doing it, learning from these mistakes. I mean, we've been on here an hour and 30 minutes. Woo! Hey, we've been going. We was trying to limit the hour. Once start get going, it's all right. I mean, hopefully, we share this video. Y'all like, comment, share. You know what I'm saying? Get the word out. We here every Thursday.
Yeah, every Thursday.
Every Thursday. Kick it to them, Andre.
Every Thursday between 7 and 9. This is our core group right here. We try to, we have Maria on here mostly as a guest. We try to include some other people as well. But every week is a different discussion. And if y'all got ideas on some of the things that you think we should talk about, then drop it in the chat. Inbox us or whatever, and whatever's the most popular, then that's what we gonna go with. Because we here to serve you. Of course we got some things that we think. Yeah, of course we got some things that we think are important that we discuss. As circumstances arise. But last week, we kind of eased off into a topic that seemed like it was a hot button. So, we might want to bring that one around and make that a primary topic, next time around or something.
Absolutely.
So, check our flyer out. Follow us all on Instagram. Follow Corinne on Twitter. And get as many people involved as possible because we here. We dedicated to this. We could be doing something else. We are all four of us are very busy people. We all got stuff going on in our lives. Mm-hmm. But we feel like this is important. You gotta be willing to give something up if you want to. If you want some type of change, you gotta be willing to contribute. So. That's what we dedicated to, and this is a big thought circle. We bring you big thoughts. We think big, and we go big. We believe big, we dream big.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So follow us. Follow. Yeah. There's definitely to everybody that's here. We appreciate your support. We definitely I know at least me and Keenan. I don't know about Corinne or Jackie. We've been getting a lot of inboxes lately, a lot of new friend requests and stuff like that. More people have been following me on Instagram. So, word is definitely getting around. My thing is get the kids involved, instead of sitting with them with their little video games or, whatever the case may be, sit with them, and let them hear this discussion. Get them involved. You know what I'm saying? Let them ask some questions. Let them ask them whatever they want to ask. My nephew, he used to ask me a lot of questions about prison. You know what I'm saying? He asked me some hard questions too. You know, them kids, they they know what be going on. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, you know, thanks everybody for your support. You know, we'll be back here again. You know, next Thursday between 7 and 9. Yeah, you know, share the word. You know, share the word. You know, let everybody know. You know, get as many people to show up as possible. And you know, thank everybody that showed up today. Thank you for your support, your comments. And you know, I'm gonna leave it. You know, leave it to y'all to, you know, add any additional comments you want to add on the way out.
Closing remarks. It's up to y'all. How y'all feeling? You know, like I said, thank you. You know, everybody too. You know, we appreciate y'all. Ms. Clara Chavez. Yeah, thank you so much. We thank you for sharing, liking the video, supporting us. Like I said, we here to make an impact. We appreciate everyone. Thank you, Jackie, Karen.
Yeah, the same. I appreciate everybody. Thank you. Thank you to everybody in the comments, especially, you know, my family, my friends is down there. I see y'all. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what everyone else said. Thanks for participating in the conversation, and we look forward to more.
Yeah, hopefully next week, me and Keenan could shut up a little bit more and let Corinne and Jackie take the stage.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like low key, like we on here with some amazing women, you know, super smart. Make sure y'all follow Corinne on Twitter, follow Jackie on Instagram. If you're looking for great conversation and smart, you know, smart women to contribute to a conversation, you know, they the ones, and that's why they here. We see y'all next Thursday. Everybody have a great night.
See y'all.
Yeah. Cool. Right.
Take care,
Please
everyone.
have a good night. All right, see y'all.
All right,
Peace.